My name is Cheria, and for a living, I turn workplaces into growth spaces. This podcast is a front row seat into my own personal and professional development as I talk with inspiring people about the growth that takes place at the intersection of work and life. Welcome to Grow There with Cheria. Who was the last unexpected friend that you made? As adults, it's harder to make friendships organically, but when it happens, there's something magical about it. And our podcast guest today is someone who I developed an unexpected friendship with. In fact, Laura Bruno, who was on the very first season of this podcast, she told me, "Hey, I think you should meet my friend Kim. She's doing something really cool in the space of working with new managers, and I just think she'd be great for you to connect with." And if you know me, I love a blind friendship date. I do not shy away from those at all. I just think it's really fun to be introduced to someone that someone else thinks you should know. So Kim and I decided to meet up and we went on a walk in Alamo Square. If you don't know Alamo Square, it's the park in San Francisco where the painted ladies are. A lot of times people think of Full House when they think of it. And, we went for a walk, and we said, "Hey, let's do this again." And we did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And our entire friendship has been us taking walks in Alamo Square and having conversations and talking shop. We both do really similar work. We've niched down in different areas, but there's so much crossover, and so it's such a gift to be able to just talk to someone about the pains and the gains and to share our wins with one another. Kim is brilliant at sharing her wins with me. She inspires me so much. And we talk about celebrating our wins on this podcast, and she gives a stellar example. Or I should say, she is a stellar example for how to celebrate your wins. And I just adore her, and I can't wait for you to meet her. So, Kim Nicol is an executive coach. And after teaching sold out classes for new managers in San Francisco, LA, and New York, she decided to create the New Manager podcast, which is now a top 2% globally ranked show that explores the human side of work and leadership. Her calming presence and background in mindfulness led her to being selected as the well being coach for one of the world's premier luxury brands. In that role, she's worked with over 50 women impact entrepreneurs. Kim is a former lawyer with additional training in trauma informed leadership. She is also a certified yoga teacher, functional fitness instructor, and Reiki practitioner. She is incredible. So, without further ado, it's time to grow there with Kim Nicol. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Oh, I am so excited to have you. And I feel like we've already been chit-chatting in the beginning, and I just wish we were recording already because there's so much good things for us to talk about today.
I
You know
know.
how this podcast goes. I put it on my guests to do the heavy lifting of telling a story about a time where their personal life impacted their professional life or vice versa, and how they grew from that. And I know you have so many stories that you can tell, but I'd love to give you the stage for you to kick us off and tell me one of yours.
Thank you. Okay, so the things you need to know at the beginning are that I was working in just a corporate job, and I went to this fitness class at the gym, once a week that I loved. And earlier in my life when I was in college, I would not have described myself as an athlete, but the reality
Mm,
was that I was a collegiate rower for 3 years. And then after rowing, when I went after college and into the world, I was still very active. I went to
mm,
yoga classes and dance classes, and I was, just very in my body and doing all these different activities.
mm,
But when I got into this corporate life, there was this one class that I found that I loved, and it was in the
Yes.
studio, and it was this barefoot functional movement class, and it felt like this really beautiful kind of bridge between dance and yoga, but, like, just a different kind of physicality.
Yeah.
And one day, the teacher announced that she was going to be offering a teacher training.
Mm,
And I thought, "Oh, I would like to take that class," not because I have any aspiration to teach, but because I enjoy this format so much and
mm,
I would like to learn it even more deeply in my own body. I'd like to
mm,
understand kind of what's the teacher perspective. And
mhm.
if I learn about teaching, then maybe I can even guide myself through this class and do it more just on my own. So
Yeah.
I totally decided to do this just for my own personal interest.
Mm,
And I was with all of these other professional fitness people, like people
yeah.
that had taught classes for years, different formats. Some of them had advanced degrees in things like kinesthesiology and, like fitness. And I thought of them as real fitness pros, and they were.
Mm,
And I thought of myself as, oh, I'm just a girl who likes this class, and I hope it's okay that I'm here. And it was, like a weekend training, and at the end of this training, my teacher said, "So, Kim, where and when do you wanna start teaching?" And
mhm.
I said, "Oh, no, 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 like, I'm not a fitness pro, I'm not a teacher, I'm just taking this because I'm one of those students who loves the material."
Yeah.
And she said, "Listen, this is not rocket science." She's
Mm,
like, "Listen, you know this material better than anyone else in this teacher training because you have been in my class every week for like a year."
mm.
And it was
Wow.
this moment of really sort of reframing my identity, of
Yeah.
thinking myself of, "Oh, no, I'm just a student,
Mm,
I'm not someone like you." There was
mm,
this comparison and this identity thing. I'm like, "I work at a desk. I have a corporate
mm,
career. Like, this is just sort of for fun." But because of what she said to me, I thought, "Oh, well, maybe I could teach this," you know? Like, maybe this would be fun to
yeah.
guide others through this experience. And she introduced me to a studio in San Francisco that had wanted her format, but there were not enough
Mm,
teachers in the city. And so
mm,
she made the introduction, and then I went and auditioned, and they said, You're great. We'll schedule you for Saturday mornings." And what was amazing was that experience of starting this, it was really a part-time job. I taught one
yeah.
class a week at this studio, but what it did was it really set the foundation for what became, my career and interest around teaching, around facilitation, even around leadership, like all the things I talk about now around
Mm,
being a manager and leadership and all of the coaching. It really came from the experience of guiding a group of humans through this physical experience,
mm,
one morning a week
mm.
at the gym in my neighborhood. And it set me on a path that kind of blossomed in ways I never would have expected, and it helped me identify and learn for myself skills and qualities that I would not, I think, have exercised or tapped into in my other job.
Mhm.
So there was
Yeah,
so much kind of learning for me, so much growth that
yeah,
I wasn't expecting to encounter as I was exploring that. But when I look back now,
mm,
I'm
yeah,
so glad I put myself in the room, and I'm so glad that I had a teacher who really encouraged me to see myself in a different light.
mm. I love I think there are just so many great takeaways from this story. I think this is a perfect story to share, and one of the things that is standing out to me right now is what can happen when you follow your interests and you actually invest in those interests is already a big there is a big well of awareness coming to me right now because I think we live in this space where a lot of people are just, first of all, trying to survive this world, which I completely understand. And they have so much going on, so much that they're taking care of with their families and their jobs and all of these things that we don't even remember, oh, I'm a person who has interests that are worth exploring in this life because they unlock something in me when I follow something that lights me up. And even just stopping there for a second, I feel like you modeled the way through the story of just listening to something that was interesting to you and doubling down on your experience with that. So, I wonder if you could speak a little bit to just, like, let's break this story down a little bit and just
Yeah,
start there, you know, because that
absolutely.
is powerful.
Absolutely, and I think too, there's so much conversation, I hear so much dialogue around, "Oh, it's a side hustle that will then help you create
Mhm.
this other thing," and I feel like for me, I wasn't thinking about that at all. At the
Yeah.
time, I was very content with my corporate job,
Mhm.
it was fine, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't super amazing, it wasn't super bad, it was fine, but it really created this stable kind of force in my life that allowed me to then explore other things. So when I was teaching, I really thought of it was a hobby, it was something fun, it was something
Mhm.
that I liked to do just for me. And then I started to really feel this sense of connection and responsibility for my students. I loved
Yeah.
seeing how they responded to the material. And and I loved wearing the microphone with the little, with the little hip pack and creating the music and the playlist and all of this. And as I started teaching, then I started to get really curious about anatomy because I would
Mhm.
look across the room of all these different bodies and I would realize, oh, I would like to better understand kind of what's happening beneath the surface and how do I understand, everyone's body moves a little differently. Everyone's at
Yeah.
different stages of their health and injury and life
Mhm.
journey. So then I said, how can I learn about anatomy so I can be a better teacher?
Mm.
And I thought, well, the way I'll do that is I'll go to massage school at night. And
Mhm.
so I went to this massage school and it was, 2 nights a week after work, and it was awesome. And I
Mm.
learned so much, not just about anatomy, which of course I did, but I also learned about, like a deeper learning around presence,
Mm.
around healing touch, around, energy. That's how I met my Reiki teacher, and then I thought, "Ooh, I need to learn more about the energy side of this." And so
Mm.
then later I did this Reiki training, and so there were all of these different things that I was able to follow
Mm.
without any pressure to make it become something. I was
Yes.
able to just explore and follow and sort of let all these different layers of understanding start to connect and reinforce and illuminate. And
Mm.
it was such a sort of a really a transformational experience for me,
Yeah.
and it also really filled me, like, it just made me feel, it's like the opposite of when you feel drained, right? Like, I just
Mhm.
felt full.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't feel overextended. I felt like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, this is wonderful." And then all the
Yeah.
insight I gained, I could then bring like, it changed the way I saw people, it changed the way I
Yeah.
saw my work life, it changed all of these things. And I think it also really began to sort of develop for me this awareness of, at the end of the day, I was an okay fitness teacher.
Mm.
There were a lot of teachers that were, I think, much better than I was.
Mhm.
But what I began to understand when I would ask my students or I'd ask somebody who was new to class, and oh, by the way, I loved the new students too, because I loved
Mm.
welcoming them. I loved, seeing them go from like, I don't know what this class is gonna be. I hope it's okay, to really
Yeah.
kind of relaxing into the movement. I loved thinking of the cues. How do I want like, what are the words I want to use to ignite something in a person that makes them kind of open up into their own strength and discovery while also feeling into what is appropriate for them?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I began to understand, oh, people come to the gym because there's something they want to change about their body.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
oh, sometimes, the real work is not about how we move, but it's about how we see ourselves in the mirror and the stories we tell about who we are and what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And I began to understand that my real gift in that setting was not really about the physical movement and the guidance, but it really was about creating a transformational experience that helped people relate to themselves
Yes.
differently, with
Yeah.
more compassion, with more enthusiasm, being able to
Yeah.
shift some of the language so that they experience the intensity of the workout, not as this, like one of my favorite cues was, when you feel your muscles and they're like trembling and you're
Mm.
sweating and you think, I'm dying right now. They're like, yeah. I'm like, no, that's your body telling you I'm alive. And it was a little bit corny, but you could see the shift. And they're like, that's
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
can change this feeling. It's not, my muscles are not trembling because I am weak or because this is hard. It's
Yes.
because this is my body telling me I am alive, and that
Yes.
is amazing, and I just became hooked.
Yeah.
I became
Yeah.
totally hooked by this.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so much here. There's so much here. And I think first of all, you're just the way that you love to learn. Obviously, these folks have heard the bumper, and I know they're gonna hear, "You have earned, like, every certification under the sun. You have all the degrees. You've, like, done all the things." So you are truly my mom was on this podcast, and I was joking because well, I was teasing her because she must have said, "I'm a lifelong learner" 7 times in the episode, and you are that. You are such a learner, and following that, again, following your interest and letting that fill you up, I find that personally so aspirational in the sense that I have the opposite problem. I've been working since I was 8 years old. I kinda started my life with a side hustle, so to speak. And so my mentality always goes to, how do I learn this thing so that I can bring it to the marketplace? And I've had to learn to free myself of that. I'm still learning how to free myself of that. So to listen to you, just follow what you love and not turn it into a job or a career, not being the thing that keeps your love of learning that thing alive is so potent to me. Plus, I think when you really dig in deeper, as you're learning along the way, and not just learning, but then even stepping into, doing this on the side, being this fitness coach on the side, I feel like what you're actually doing is you're learning who you are in the process, and you're learning what lights you up about the work. And rather than seeing it as something that is just a skill that you now have and have acquired and can bring to the marketplace, now it's like, oh, let me follow this thread because this thread of helping to transform people's lives, this thread of helping people to see themselves the way I'm seeing myself through this process is actually the thing that will light me up longer term, which I feel like when you were saying that last bit about seeing how people are being transformed, that's why you and I do the work that we do today, right? Is
Yeah.
because there's so much of how do we help people see who they actually are and bring that forward for themselves. So I'm inspired. I feel like I haven't asked you a single question because you just keep giving me all of the
Yeah.
goodness.
Well, 100%, and that actually also shifted how I started thinking about my corporate my corporate
Yeah,
life, because it
yeah.
was this awareness of who I really love being is I love being who I am when I'm in the studio at 9 AM on Saturday mornings. How
Mhm.
can I be more of that in this other venue, in this other setting? And when I became promoted to a director, I suddenly started to kind of make this link between, "Oh, this is where I get to be that more specifically." Like, what I
Mm,
loved about being a manager and being a director was about helping facilitate experiences that made the work better or easier for my people. I
yeah,
loved the development part of it. I loved, being able to identify Not even identify because she knew, that I had a very high performer on my team. She had gotten super top marks on all of her performance reviews for the last few years, but because our organization was so matrixed and slightly dysfunctional, she'd had a really hard time getting promoted and getting elevated to a new level within the organization, even though
Mhm,
she really did merit it. And so
mhm,
I was able to work with her and kind of step in as a sponsor and figure out, like, what does it take? Like, we cannot lose her. She's got so
mm.
much great knowledge. How can we get her into the right level of position now? And
Yeah,
being
yeah.
able to do that for her and actually see her get promoted was
Mhm.
one of the things that I loved so much
Yeah,
about the work. Helping the
yeah.
team navigate organizational change that was
Mhm,
scary and unwanted, that was the part that lit me up. And so I
mhm.
began to ask this question of, what do you call the person in the business world or in the organization that is like where their sphere of care is about the
Mhm.
human development and growth part. And that's where I started
Yeah.
to learn about the world of learning and development, of professional coaching, of personal growth, of executive coaching, of I started to learn, oh, there's this whole domain that
Mhm.
can move sort of I'm like, oh, it can move between, the fitness studio and the corporate space,
Yeah, yeah,
And so I started to reorient my career path with that understanding, even if I didn't exactly know what it was called or how it would work.
yeah,
But I began to understand, oh, like that's who I want to be in the world. And
yeah.
now let's just sort of figure out what that looks like and how that can work.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I love about this story that you've shared is how you never know what experiences you have are going to really change the trajectory of your life and career. And it's interesting because almost every experience we have in our life changes as we just don't have the wherewithal to conceptualize that that's happening. But when you can pinpoint a moment where you made a choice to deepen your learning and follow your interests, and that unlocked something over time in your brain and set you on a new path to become more of who you are, it's really that's a true story of growth, which is why this
Yeah.
podcast exists.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to kind of to wrap up in some ways this part of the story or this story. I would love for you to say, if you were to say what the thesis statement of your growth was as a result of, going and
Mhm.
diving into this fitness class, what would you say it was?
So one thing I want to say specifically, low risk choices. I was
Mm,
making all of these choices to follow and to be curious. It's like these combinations, be curious, right?
yeah,
Feel into things, be willing to pursue them because you're curious about them. Like you are worth
yeah,
being curious about. And we
true.
find out more about who we are through alive, dynamic experiences,
Yeah,
not just by reading blog posts and thinking deeply. Like, we want to have a very intimate experience with life
yeah,
by actively engaging and putting ourselves into new spaces. And one of the reasons why I was able to do that was because I was making choices that felt in many ways that they felt protected, right?
mm,
Like it was in a sense, it was a low risk, like I
mm,
didn't leave my job for several years, and I
mhm,
had given myself this time to explore these ideas and to let them germinate and to let them kind of move me and activate in me and to
mhm.
expand my sense of curiosity. And so I think that's an important part of it,
Yeah,
like the yes,
yeah,
be curious, like yes, be willing to explore
mhm,
things just because they're interesting to you. And also, give yourself the grace of really feeling into what's the level of low risk for you.
yeah,
Like the thing that felt risky for me, and sometimes people are surprised, is that I am an introvert. So you know, sometimes people are surprised that I would do such sort of public facing
Mm.
group facilitation work.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
for me, it was very consistent with my introvert nature because as an introvert, I really, really am drawn to connecting with people individually,
Yeah.
and if I'm really clear about what my role is in the room, then I also can tap into this feeling of I know why I'm here and my job is not, like there was just like a clarity about what the work was. And I could connect
Mm.
with individuals. I could sort of connect with the group as a whole dynamic and then
Mhm.
move between the group and the individual throughout the hour. And
Mhm.
that to me felt thrilling. It felt
Yeah.
fun. It felt enlivening. So I
Mm.
felt like I was still working very coherently, very much in alignment with myself, but I was getting to expand and discover what that looks like and feels like in a different venue.
Yeah.
So give
Yeah.
yourself permission to try those different things in a
Yeah.
very real active way.
I love this so much, and again, I feel like this is wisdom for my own ears right now because my girlfriend and I, we always talk about where we have this very accountability driven life where we talk every single day and we're always talking about the things that we're trying. She was actually on the podcast too, Karen, for those of you who are listening. But we're always pushing ourselves, and we have this saying where we say we wanna do things that make us wanna throw up and die. That's like our that's our feeling, like, our if we feel like we're, doing something that's really gonna push us, it's something that makes us feel like we wanna throw up and die. But what I feel like you're talking about is actually the counter and possibly often more productive viewpoint to have. Which is look for the areas of low risk. Look for the areas of quick wins because it's a quick
Yeah.
win to go to that first class that you've been thinking about going to all these years, but haven't. Just one low risk quick win. Get that under your belt and see what happens next versus,
Yeah.
you know, putting all that pressure to get into the throw up and die mentality, which I think also has it has its perks as well, but so often, I think we worry about or I think so often we blow up this idea of something so much bigger than it needs to be, but if we can look for the low risk, quick win that allows us to discover even a little bit of something new, it's
Yeah.
just such a great it's an accessible beginning, you know?
Yeah, and for me, the language that comes up as I'm hearing you say this, for me, it feels like the difference between an invitation and pressure. Like,
Yeah.
the idea of, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like, you're invited to do this small, lovely thing,"
Yes. Mhm.
rather than, "Okay, here's the pressure, like,
Exactly.
you've gotta face the big thing and,
Mhm.
here we go."
Mhm.
And there's a
Mhm.
sense of, like, the softening, right? Like, the
Yeah.
softening open into something
Yeah.
rather than, "I'm gonna grip and, like, move against it." And
Yeah.
there are times for both, but I think
Sure.
it really is, like, cross training, right? Like, you
Yeah.
want to have softness and recovery and that really
Yeah.
warm invitation from time to time. I think especially when we live in a world where we get so much messaging around the hardness
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
things, you
Yeah.
know? And the other thing too is it made such a big difference for me to have just one person who believed in me and saw a
Mm.
potential in me that I didn't really understand for myself.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
one person who is encouraging makes a world of difference.
Oh, yeah.
And, even though I stepped into the studio and I was maybe doubting, my identity of like, am I really cut out for this? Am I really a qualified teacher?
Mhm.
Everyone else in the room was like, oh, yeah, no, you're the teacher. Like,
Mhm.
let's go.
Yeah.
They sort of held me to that standard and expectation. And I realized, my job is not to be as good as this other person or to compare myself to someone who's been doing this for
Mhm.
decades. My
Mhm.
job is to take something that I love, that I have trained in, and to, guide others through this experience. And I will get
Yep.
better as I go, but like I can serve today with what I've
Yes.
got.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
also really shifted it. It made it feel
Mhm.
less pressure, less fear, less risk, and more like,
Mhm.
"Oh, like, I feel invited to share something that I love, and I feel, like I'm gonna invite you to have this experience, and I think it's gonna be
Yes.
great.
Yes. It's so good. Oh, Kim. You know, one thing I haven't said yet, which I haven't recorded the bumper, so hopefully I don't say it in the bumper, but if I say it twice, then y'all are getting it twice, is that Kim and I became friends, I guess, probably 2 years ago now, maybe? Yeah,
Not that
and
bad.
a friend introduced us via email and said, "You guys should know each other," and so we started going on walks in the park. Literally, the vast majority of our friendship is walking around in the park and having these conversations, much like we're having this conversation today. And the thing I love about you is your energy is so powerful and so different from mine that every time we're around each other, I feel like I'm integrating some of your
Mm.
power into me that feels so different from my own power that I externalize somehow. And yet what you just said there, and I say this with so much respect for your power, and I'm calling it power because there's a softness to how you show up in life that is powerful, that a lot of people, I think, like, to me, you're a force, and yet you come in with this introverted energy, but it's like you are everything that we need in introverts, that we need to understand the power of the introvert is you actualized. I don't know
Mm.
if I'm making actually any sense, but it's like there is and I'm barely an extrovert. I've taken the Myers-Briggs and I'm definitely both, but the way I experience you is as an empowered introvert
Mm.
and that you live that way, and the way that you show up for teams and your clients, it's I get up there with my more extroverted self. You get up there appearing to be extroverted, but actually flexing your full introverted self. And that's what's so powerful, the way you're able to
Yeah.
see what others can't see, to make connections
Mhm.
because you're so intuitive, you're so locked in.
Thank you for that. And I think it also points to something else that I see sort of in the bigger world, which is there's a real reverence for hardness
Mm,
as strength. And I
mm,
think that's very misguided.
yes.
It's very inaccurate. People
Mhm,
mistake hardness or rigidity for
mhm,
strength. They think strength is a gripping. They think and there's so much language that devalues softness. Like you
mm,
see this all the time. Oh, no fluff, right? I'm like, fluff
mhm,
is awesome. I love fluffy. I love
mhm,
fluffy and soft. There's so much value and strength that comes from understanding sort of the role and the power of softness. And
mm,
to kind of make this even more concrete in like physiological terms, and this is something that, one of my trainers gifted me with this insight years ago. And they said there are really two ways of weakness, right? Like in the body, and when we describe a muscle as being weak. And one
yeah,
is a muscle that is undeveloped, that hasn't experienced the strength or the activity or the stress of movement, right? An
mm,
underdeveloped muscle, we call that weak. But the other
mm,
kind of weakness is when you have a muscle that is chronically engaged,
mhm,
that won't let go. If your muscle
mm,
is chronically engaged, we call that a cramp. Right? And that
mhm,
is bad
mhm,
because number 1, that
yeah,
hurts, and number 2, it means it's not available.
yeah,
So if you're chronically hard, like hardness is
mm,
actually a sign
mhm,
of weakness because it
mhm,
means that you're not available. And you
yeah,
have to learn how to release and soften in order to access the strength that you have. And so
mhm,
that for me always really hit, just in the same way that your heart is strong because it consistently releases. If your heart, no,
mm,
was
mhm,
chronically contracted, we call that dying. We call that
Yes.
heart attack. We call that cardiac arrest.
Oh my
But,
gosh,
like,
yes.
the only reason your heart is strong is because it is soft, because it is working
Mm,
24 hours a day throughout the whole extent of your life. So I think
mm,
there's always been for me this deep understanding of the value of softness, of
yes,
release, of rest. And
yes.
sometimes it's hard to hold on to that because we get so much message from the world. You have to toughen up. You can't be too sensitive. You have to have a tougher skin. That's soft and unvalued. And
Mm,
that I think there's this really deep part of me that's like, "No, that's missing something
mhm,
really important that all of us
yeah,
have availability to."
mhm.
And that's something that I really wanna stand for and amplify and activate within others so they can experience it for themselves.
Ugh, Kim, this might have been my favorite soundbite of this whole episode. I
Ah,
think that is so good, and I even just landing on the heart needing to be soft, that alone just, like, got me because I think as a especially a woman, an entrepreneur, there's all
mhm.
pressure to be, like, going out there with your hardness, and hardness maybe is not even the word, but it's just not soft is the word, like, to your point, not
Yeah.
soft, and and at the same time, that's what, I just, I'm doing a light refresh of my brand right now, and I asked my clients to tell me some of my clients, I asked them to tell me, "How do I make them feel when I walk into a room?" And all of the things that they said were these very, you know, like, seen and heard and safe to open up and safe to have the hard conversations, and I read it and I was like, "That's nice, but can't anyone do that? Like, can't anyone make that space?" And then I realized, no, that's why you and I have jobs, because it's about coming in and creating those environments where people let go of that cramp to your point, where people
Mhm.
actually contract, I I think that you just do it so well. Like, I just know that the way you show up is magical because it's disarming and because it is, like, kind of not beating the softness into
Mm.
people, but just unlocking it for them, making them realize, "Oh,
Yeah.
also" even just the sound of your voice. I was talking to you about the sound of your voice. Please push record, and I said, "I wish that I could exchange the sounds of our voice." You just embody this powerful softness, this let's not maybe powerful, it's potent softness, and
Mhm.
that is I just value that so much, and I know we're, kind of off the rails on this topic, but I would like to come back to just looking at your whole story and looking at all the things that you've shared in this situation. If you were to give advice to a business leader, someone leading a culture, someone leading a team, a new manager, because that's really your wheelhouse, um, what is a piece of advice that you would give based on the story that you told today?
It would be to look beyond the business landscape. Like, there's so much that you're gonna learn, so many insights that will activate something valuable in you that you will be able to bring into that space. For me, it was, this fitness studio and this movement journey. For you, it might be something around animals, it might be something around plants, it might be art, it might be some other experience. But I think we often look too much into the business world
Mhm.
and stories of leadership to learn how to be better in the business world and how to be better leaders. And I think that's actually too small. I think
Yeah.
you want to remember that you are a very dimensional creature. And there are
Mhm.
parts of you that you will only access and understand in the most profound way that are far beyond the business world. It might even be in your experience as a parent or
Yeah.
in your experience in your community, but, like, activate those other parts of yourself because that's where you'll find wisdom, learning, and insights, about yourself as a leader, but also about people.
Mhm.
and the way that you make decisions, like, all of that will serve you then in that context. And maybe it's that awareness too. The business world is one venue for
Mhm.
being a person, but don't limit your learning to that venue in order to get better at being a leader within that space.
Mm. This is basically the thesis statement for this podcast, Kim, because
Oh, good, I'm in the right
That's
place. I knew it.
really, when you think about it, that's it. It's like that's why, I ask this question all the time, "Tell me a
Yeah.
story when personal life." Almost almost every single story starts with something in that person's personal life that impacts their professional life, not the other way around.
Mhm.
And I think that that's because life is rich. And I
Yes.
love that you call work is a venue. Work is just it takes up a lot of time in our lives, yes, but it is a venue to participate. And I think part of the reason why I do the work I do is because I believe if we can change the workplace, we can change the world. And if we're just changing the workplace from with inside the workplace and not bringing
Mhm.
in all the things around it that actually make us human, that actually shape who we are and how we show up and how we want to show up. Well, if we're not bringing those into the workplace, then we're not actually creating a transformative space that lends oneself to itself to another. So
Mm.
I think what you're saying is so spot on. Well, listen, first of all, we're about to get into rapid fire. But before we do that, I want to say thank you for being my friend because I feel like I just gleaned so much from you. Our talks are one of my favorite things. And one of the things I love about you, Kim, is that you always share, well, maybe not always, but you share your wins with me. I'll get an email from Kim and she'll share her wins, and it makes me so it lights me up so much. And it's funny, I recently those of you listening know that I am a personal growth practitioner for Hoda Kotb's Joy 101 app. And I did this video recently about celebrating your tiny wins. And it was exciting. Hoda kind of endorsed this particular video, and people were kind of cheering me on. And my cousin had to remind me to celebrate that as a win. And I'm like, the irony that I'm doing a video about celebrating my tiny wins, and then she's having to remind me to celebrate this moment was kind of hilarious. And so every time you send me one of your wins, it lights me up so much because it's such a reminder of the fact that we have to do this, the fact that we have to share those wins, the fact that we have to let those things light us up and share them so that they light other people up. So I
Yeah.
love that you do that. It makes me so happy. Please keep
Oh my
sharing your
gosh.
wins with me.
Thank you for that. I cherish you and our friendship and our walks so much, and it's so important. Like, I really value that you are a person in my life that I feel safe and I look forward to sharing those small wins with. The small ones and the big ones. That is
Yeah.
really, yes, that makes me feel so good.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's also, I need to say to everyone, I know I'm going to say this on the front end, but you have to listen to Kim's podcast. You have to check out Kim. And also, one day, Kim and I are going to do work together because we actually have
Yep.
talked about like what collaborating might look like one day, because I think together we would just be unstoppable. But I really just I'm such a fan of yours, and I think we play in really similar circles in our work, but that says everything that anyone needs to know about how much respect I have for you, that I would bring you on the podcast. Not like, well, honestly, if you're gonna do some, I do run we run, what am I trying to say? We do similar things, but if you have a chance to work with Kim, work with Kim. That's what I'm saying. Kim's amazing. So, I just am a fan. I'm just a huge fan of yours. Um, okay. Rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Growth is,
Hard,
yeah.
but also
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's all those things, right? What was the very first thing you realized you were good at as a child?
Oh, the very first thing I realized I was good at as a child, you know what? I honestly, I don't know. What was I good at as a child?
You know
I
what?
don't Is it
Sometimes
okay if I don't know? I don't have an
that's
answer to that.
fine. Totally fine. What was your first job?
Stuffing envelopes. I was a kid, my dad was the executive director of a race, of, like, a foot race
Yeah.
in town,
Yeah.
and so every year, me and my brother and some of the other, kids of the leadership, we would be in this big room, like, stuffing envelopes with
Love it.
brochures and bib numbers, and, that's what we did.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's great. Who was the best or favorite boss you've ever had?
So when I started working for this company doing public speaking trainings, my manager there, Tim Fortescue, I'll just shout out his name because he's also an amazing coach and facilitator, and he's out in the world. One of the things that made him such a great manager was I felt he really understood my style and valued it.
Mm,
He's like, "Oh, you bring this calm quality. We don't have that in our other trainers. We've got all these other types of personalities and styles, but he's like, you bring something different and I value that." And he was one of
mhm.
the I think the first people who really made that explicit and
Yeah.
clear to me that the way that I was not something I had to fix or apologize for or kind of, you know, hold in an embarrassed kind of way, but he was very explicit, like, "Your style of doing things is going to be so good in the mix, especially when we pair you with a coach who's really out there and really, like, brings the character and the fire and, like, ah." He's like, "You're
Yeah.
gonna be great in our staffing, and you're gonna be great for our clients." And it really helped me start to see
Yeah.
myself differently and feel
That
valued for that quality.
that's fantastic. What's something you're trying to learn right now?
I am trying to learn how to gosh, it's like I'm really trying to learn how to trust even more that who I wanna be and the work I wanna do, there is room for that in the world. I don't have
Yeah.
to always cloak it or try to present it in a way that I think will be proving or pleasing. Like, there's something about really learning how to lean more fully into this way of being, and also, like learning how to be driven more from that rather than, "Oh, I need to do this in the smart way or in the, practical way." Which I
Yeah.
thought I had learned, but as you know, right? You don't learn a lesson once, you learn it it's
Oh,
like
man.
a series of an upward spiral where you're
Yep.
gonna encounter new levels of old challenges in order
Yeah.
to develop even greater strength and learning in the thing that you're like, "But I thought I learned that 10 years ago." Nope, you're getting to learn it again.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what
Oh
I'm
my
learning right
gosh.
now.
I love that. Well, what are you unlearning right now?
I am unlearning I feel like there are a couple of really embedded rules that I internalized early in my career, early in my life that I'm realizing, like, those are not useful now. Like, this is not the
Mm.
time for those,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
One of those is, like, unlearning the restriction of just be happy with what you have, don't ask
Mm.
for more.
Mm.
If you're, don't be too ambitious. It signals that you're not grateful for what you have.
Mm.
The lesson of, oh, in order to be legible and valued and accepted, I have to, present in this certain kind of way. I think
Mm.
part of it too, so I'm Gen X, and I feel like there's just a lot of lessons that I was absorbing earlier in my career, and the world is different now. And some
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
world, the rules or expectations or agreements around, I think, work especially, those
Yeah.
are changing. So I'm also really learning a lot from younger generations and from
Yeah.
observing the conversations that are emerging and realizing, "Oh, these things that I adopted as a Gen Xer, it's time to unlearn and let those go now."
Mm. That's so good. Tell me a book or a movie that changed your life.
A book that changed my life, the one that comes to mind is Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way, which
Yeah.
I first read probably 15 years ago as part when I was a dancer. I was studying dance, and our, uh, dance teacher assigned this as homework for everyone in the
Mhm.
company, and so I did it together, I did it with friends, I did it in a creative space, and it really helped me both tap into my own inner artist, my own writer. The concept of artist states
Yeah, I
has
love
been
artist dates.
yeah, like, really transformative, and, even though I haven't gone back to that book in years, it continues, I think, to have an effect
Mm,
in how I am.
I love that. I love that. When growth feels good, how do you celebrate?
By telling a friend,
Yes,
by
yes,
sharing it,
exactly.
right? It's like by
Yeah,
sharing it, you know?
yeah,
That's how I celebrate, like, it's like connection by, you know, by
yeah.
sharing it.
Well,
Mhm.
and I benefit from you sharing. And when growth feels hard, how do you take care of yourself?
Part of it is reminding myself that when growth is hard, it's not because I'm bad. It's not because I'm
Mm,
bad at something. It's not because I'm a failure, or it's not because, it's like, oh, it's to sort of make sure, like, take care of myself by telling myself, "Yeah, like, this is part of it. This is
mm,
normal. This
yeah,
is the part that's
yeah,
hard. It's
yeah,
okay."
yeah,
Being
yeah.
really
It's good.
gentle, and I'm learning how to also reach out and connect with others and not
Mm.
completely isolate when things feel bad, when growth is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Last question. When you grow all the way up and you leave this life, what is it that you hope to congratulate yourself on?
I wanna say, like, good job for trying a lot of things,
Yeah.
and good
Yeah.
job for not giving up. Good job for not giving up on others, for not giving up on yourself. Good job for
Mhm.
being willing to try things and to, um, to leave something that helped life flourish.
Mm. Mm. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Kim, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your friendship. Thank you for sharing so much wisdom today. And can't wait to see you on another walk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure.
All right, y'all. Talk to you later.